What the Tech is brought to you by Shutterstock.com. With over 28 million high-quality stock photos, illustrations, vectors, and video clips. For 25% off your new account, go to Shutterstock.com and use offer code WhatTheTech1013. GoDaddy. Go to GoDaddy.com and get a .com domain name for $1.99 by using offer code QUEENS199.
What the Tech?
Hey everybody, welcome to What the Tech. This is a very special What the Tech. We are celebrating Paul Thurrott's birthday. Happy birthday, Paul.
Thank you, sir.
A young 32 years old. You're going to be spending the
Yes,
evening.
yeah, sort of.
You're going to be spending the evening going to clubs, possibly a gentleman's club to finish out the night.
Be cigar smoking and strippers.
Big strippers and cigars everywhere.
That's pretty much every Tuesday night, really.
Did you ever do the wild birthday?
No.
I've never done it.
No, I did not.
I feel like my life is just one endless wild cycle.
Yeah.
5 minutes away from putting me into rehab, but
I have to be honest. Like the traditional dates of celebration are things I'm not that into. Birthdays, Christmas. I don't mean I'm not into Christmas. What I mean is the sort of presumption and responsibility of showing up and buying the presents for people and doing all that kind of stuff. Like I feel like my family does things regularly. Like, we go on trips together. We just went away last weekend, actually. And, my wife and I do things together all the time. Like, I don't know. I don't need stuff. I
become miserable around my birthday. I get the birthday blues every year. I become just awful to be around to the point that my wife has given up in trying to make my birthday something nice, where she's like, what do you want to do? I want to go sit at the bar. Okay, fine. You're going to go sit at the bar. I'll meet you for dinner. That's what my birthday has become every year.
Yeah, sure.
I don't like it. I don't like this birthday thing. It's nonsense.
My parents always call and they're like, oh, how can we have a kid who's as old as you? This is so terrible.
Are you the oldest or the youngest?
I'm the oldest.
Okay. All right. So it's fine.
Yeah.
But it is Paul.
Well, I know how they feel. I mean, my kids are teenagers, right? And I don't know how we got here. I mean, it's just, seemed like a couple of weekends ago, my son was running around in a onesie, and it's just the way things go, like you just don't really, it doesn't.
It goes by fast.
Yeah.
Quickly, very quickly.
Sure.
32, big age, almost 40 now, Paul. So get in there. You're getting there. This is a show where we talk about technology, things that we like. I like to describe it as two guys sitting at a bar and talking about tech.
Yeah,
that's how I like to describe the show. It's a loose show. We don't stick to a structure. We talk about what we want to talk about, and a lot is happening in technology.
I know. The
next, I guess, couple weeks, and I kind of wanted to talk about this. I was going to go to this second, but we'll talk about this first. I like to call it gadget madness, where
we almost need to do like a breakdown
of
not
everything.
To be confused with a break dance.
Maybe I could do that for your birthday.
Yeah.
By the way, I did get Paul a present, if anybody's wondering. A very passive-aggressive present.
Yeah.
I got him an iTunes gift card, and I wrote in the card, good luck using this on Windows.
I ended up buying the Vanilla Ice catalog.
Did you? You should. I get something Apple-centric. Just re-download the Steve Jobs autobiography for $42.
No, we buy a lot of iTunes content. That's fine.
Yeah. But so if people were wondering, I did get Paul a iTunes gift card for his birthday. But let's talk about the stuff that's coming out. There's a lot that's going to be coming out. iPad Airs obviously are coming out on Friday. iPad Mini is coming out on Friday. I don't know if the rumors...
iPad Mini's not coming on Friday.
Oh, it's not coming. I'm sorry. iPad Mini is not coming out. It's coming out, I think, like 2 weeks later.
It might be later than that. I think in late November.
Okay. So sometime in November. Nexus 5, we don't know yet. I mean, rumors are saying, going around
probably Friday, right?
Probably Friday, which is awful. I don't even understand why they're doing that. It is
awful. Contemplating this is terrible. The problem with the Nexus 5 and any Nexus device is you can't get them when they first come out. And so if you really want one, you're kind of screwed. Like what
do you mean?
Well, remember when the Nexus 4 came out last year and it was never really available? like you would go to the website and try to order it, and there would be like a web screw up, and then you look like it was
Yeah.
in your basket, and then you got to the checkout, and it's like this item doesn't exist. And yeah, I waited. I'd have to go back and look this up. I'm just doing this off memory, but I bet I waited like 6 weeks before I could buy that thing. It was really aggravating, and I'm hoping they don't screw that up again. But I guess we'll see.
I don't know. You know, I'm hoping they don't. I don't even know if it's going to be available on Verizon. Now, I'm in a weird situation where, you know, I need to get a new phone, obviously, and I've been waiting for the Nexus 5 for my Android phone. But I also need an iPad. I've told my father I'm going to give him my iPad. So now, on that day, I'm going to spend $700, maybe more.
And you're going to spend that day standing in line at the Apple Store while you try to buy the Nexus 5 online on your existing phone.
It's going to be so awful. It really. I don't know if I'm going to go wait in line. Honestly,
Yeah,
I said
just
that I
like
would, but
the best.
it just I can't do it. I did it 1 year.
How does it work? Do they go on sale at like midnight or something? You can order them online.
The 1 year that I went, I didn't
No,
go
I mean I don't mean in person. I mean, could you do that online?
to 3 a.m.
3 a.m.
East. Yeah, so midnight in Pacific. But
So actually, if the World Series goes to 7 games, which I'm praying to God it does not, I will probably be up at 3 a.m. that morning anyway. So that will be good timing.
yeah, so you could just go right online and order it. I ordered the iPad 2, and it was the same night as the earthquake in Japan.
When you ordered the iPad 2, was it 2011, 2012, or 2013?
2011. 2011.
Still buy it. Yeah.
So I just think it's awful timing for, you know, the Nexus device to be coming out, because that's an unsubsidized device. And the people that are buying it, you know, now you're appealing to a broader audience, which it's disposable income. You know, you're throwing away the money. If you don't need a phone, you're
There are
still
going to be people who buy
justifying
it
it.
just to have it.
Yeah,
you know,
because
just they're tech guys.
Yeah,
You know,
$340.
Yep.
So I'm a
It's
little
probably going to be a
surprised.
pretty good phone, by the way. That's the other thing. I mean, the other problem is this is going to be a good phone.
Yeah, it's not a crappy phone.
Yeah, it's not a crappy phone.
So I have that to buy. I'm going to get the Air. I'm going to get that. So there you go, $800 right out of my pocket on Friday.
Sure.
And then the Xbox is coming out, and the PlayStation's coming out. I'm pre-ordered on both.
I have so much money to spend. It's just pathetic. Last week, right before we went away, I found out I could get that Surface dock, and so I ordered that, $200. While I was on the Microsoft store, I was like, you know, there are some accessories I don't have. You know, Microsoft loaned me some stuff to review, and then didn't loan me some stuff to review. So I'm like, maybe I should pick up some of this other stuff. So I grabbed one of those wireless adapters, which I'll be writing about soon, $60 or whatever that was. I read a story, I don't know, Friday, probably. I guess it was Friday. Or over the weekend, who cares? Windows RT 8.1 supposedly will work with an Ethernet adapter, which is not the case today, specifically with Microsoft's Ethernet adapter. I'm like, oh, I should get that, and I can test that. $60, you know?
Yeah.
And these things kind of add up. I mean, there's a Dell Venue Pro coming in, which is, I don't know how much does that cost, almost $400 probably. The Xbox One is coming.
Nokia tablet?
Yeah, Nokia, 2520, whatever they're calling that. The phablet as well, which I'm going to want to get.
I got an email last week. I was saying how I actually like this device and I'm excited for it. And
Yeah.
I think I said something like, I don't know why I like it so much more than the Surface. I just do.
Yep.
And some guy goes, you know, that describes your entire show. You do that all the time. Why? I don't understand. How could you like something and not know why? I'm like, I don't know. Why do you like lemons and some people don't? They just don't.
That's why I say this to my daughter all the time. Why do you like chocolate?
Do you not like chocolate?
No, I mean, but why do you like chocolate?
I don't know. You just do.
No one ever questions that, you know? I don't know why I like chocolate. I just like chocolate. You know, it's just, we can't.
So right now, if I did the
Everyone
math,
has different tastes.
we have $500 for the Xbox, right?
Yep.
$400 for the PlayStation. So let's say
This is, by the way,
$1,000
before any games.
Before
You're
any
gonna have to
games.
get games.
So
These things are just doorstops without games.
Yeah. So let's say $1,000 right there.
Yeah, easily.
Then we have the iPad, which is another $500.
If you buy the very basic version,
Which-
which are you?
I
mean,
probably
you have
will.
16 gig?
Yeah,
You are.
probably get the 16 gig.
Okay.
So we're up to 1,500 plus the Galaxy Nexus 5, which is
Yep.
let's say 350.
Yep.
So let's round that up with tax. So we're talking $1,900. And if I get if I get that Nokia tablet when it comes out, we're talking another $500
plus 100 or whatever for the keyboard
for
cover.
the keyboard cover. So we're talking about almost $3,000 when we're all said and done here.
I'm getting all that stuff myself. What about an iPad Mini? I don't know if you're doing that. Nexus 10 is going to be refreshed.
Nexus 10.
Dell Venue Pro, like I mentioned, the 8-inch version.
Oh, let me mention this. I also need a new MacBook. I'm going to get the new MacBook
At least
Pro
those
right
things
now.
are budget priced.
Yeah.
You all set on that one.
So, someone said I need a loan. EC Chew in our chat room says, you guys need a loan, geesh. But you know what? This is part of it. Like, I have to get them. And the way that I've explained this, and maybe you guys could start justifying this if you're married and you need to justify like spending the money. Just be like, hey, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make a YouTube review and I'm going to make a couple bucks back from it.
Sure.
So, I kind of have to do these reviews and get my hands on them and do it that way. But it's going to be a really expensive month for gadgets. I'm thinking of coming up with a system where I could offload and start selling some of the stuff that I'm no longer using.
Right. Yep.
And I don't want to do, the websites that do that. I want to start doing it on my own where I like a month before I know it's coming out, I could sell my Nexus.
I'm not good about this anymore. I went through this for a while, selling stuff off like this. And I was talking to my wife about this because, we're spending a lot of money on this stuff. And, I would say that some percentage of the stuff that comes through here I'm never going to use again, depending on what it is. It's actually kind of surprising what I do use over a long period of time, but whatever. Some of the stuff you should get rid of,
Yeah, don't hold on to it.
The quicker the better when you think about it.
I think people hoard this stuff. My brother just got a new iPhone.
I'm just lazy.
My brother just got a new iPhone, and he has a 3GS. And he's like, well, what can I do with this? I'm like, throw it in garbage?
Yep.
I'm like, there's nothing. He's like, well, what if I jailbroke it? I'm like, for what? What are you going to do with it? I'm like, just get rid of it. Give it to someone. I'm sure there's someone that'll take it that could use a phone.
If you tried to give that to a homeless person, they would probably put it back in your hand.
In New York, you know what they're going to do? Like, no, man, I got an iPhone 5.
Yeah.
No, I already got one. I already got one. Sorry.
That's the gold one.
Why are you giving me this crap?
Yep.
So a lot of spending to happen. What are you, out of all the devices that are coming out, what are you the most excited for? Is it the Xbox?
No, no, not really. I mean, I'm. It's not the Xbox that's exciting to me. I mean, I care more about like Call of Duty Ghosts than I do about Xbox One. I care more about some other games too, like Titanfall, which isn't coming out till next year. Looks amazing. I don't know. I mean, obviously the Surface stuff is kind of a big deal in my world, and I'm
a little surprised actually, Paul. I thought you would be really excited about the Xbox with the TV integration, all that stuff.
The thing is the sort of, I don't want to call this maturity, I guess, but there's a thing that happens where you buy this stuff and then it kind of sits there and you realize it hasn't changed your life, in any way. I mean, you can buy a new car, you could buy an expensive HD TV, you could buy a, whatever it is, a laptop, this kind of stuff, tablets and everything. You spend thousands and thousands of dollars on stuff. And none of this stuff is really life altering. I mean, I'm concerned with things like, I travel for work and I want to travel as lightly as possible. And I'm interested in the ways that you can go about doing that stuff. But I mean, it's, you can get stupid with that kind of stuff too. People who spend all kinds of time and money trying to warp their lifestyle to kind of match the needs of these devices and stuff. I don't know. I mean, all of it's interesting, but to me, this isn't. And I have to do it. I mean, it's part of the
job. Yeah.
Think about how simple it was in the old days. Like when there were just PCs. In many ways, it didn't really matter what kind of PC you had. The debate around like I want a Dell or I want an HP or whatever. Like that stuff's not very interesting. The stuff that was interesting was always the software. And as we move to this kind of mobile devices and online services world, the software is so much less important because it just gets updated instantly.
Yeah, and also there's 20 different softwares that do the same exact thing.
Yeah, so we got all wrapped up around Apple's having an event, and they're going to release new devices, and once or twice a year there's this huge, oh my god, and Google does this, Microsoft does it, Amazon does it, and we contort ourselves around these devices now. And the thing is, once every 3 years a new version of Windows would come out, once every 3 years a new version of Office would come out. Now we got like once a year. some device will come out from some company, and it's wicked expensive. You know,
Yeah.
like in the 10 years ago, the most money you could ever spend on software was like Adobe Photoshop. It would cost like $800 or $900. No one ever spent that amount of money on Photoshop. No one normal. I mean, just actual artists. You know, people who really need the software. It's
And
very small.
and people that did it,
money.
they were doing it and they were making money with it.
Yeah, today people spend that much on a new device every 6 months.
Yeah.
They think nothing of it. And
But why?
you know,
What changed? What made us? I mean, this is fascinating because
yeah,
there was obviously a shift somewhere.
yeah.
Was the shift with the fact that these are now considered disposable appliances? They're appliances. They're no longer
We've gotten to
fixtures
a
in your
world
house.
where things that are extremely expensive are disposable, and they are disposable. Is amazing and sad in some ways. You know, in some ways it's pragmatic. I think I told you the story about how the first HD TV we bought, we got this plasma unit. It was very expensive for the time. We bought a very expensive service contract that we never were able to take advantage of even once, and then it finally died. In fact, by the way, I mean, I think it died within 30 days of the expiration of its warranty.
Of course
as
it
if on
did.
schedule.
Yeah.
So the second time we went to buy an HD TV, we spent relatively a small amount of money. I think it was $750. We got like a Vizio from Costco. The theory is if this thing even lasts a year, it will be a better deal than the last thing we bought. It's lasted over 2 years now, I think. Maybe not. I think 2 years. Someday it's going to die, and we're going to throw it away and not care about it. And we'll buy the next $700, $800 TV, whatever. Maybe it'll be $500. Who knows? You know,
Yeah.
by the time that happens. This is a very different thing from when we grew up, when you could buy a TV or a washing machine or a refrigerator or whatever, and it would last forever.
Yeah,
know,
you
my
bought
parents
it. You
probably
bought it
still-
when it was a sale. You would go
Yeah.
with your parents. I mean, I remember going with my
was a big
parents.
deal.
I remember when they bought their big projection TV. Those awful. They looked awful. They got like a big 46-inch or 42, whatever the size was, 40-inch because they're square. And we waited till something was on sale. They got it. I mean, we're talking like the early 90s. And they picked it up, and they had that TV for about. They got it in like 92. So they
Sure.
probably had it till 2002, so 10
We
years.
had a raccoon family living in there by the time they were done with it.
Yeah,
But the thing still worked.
yeah. I mean, 10
Things
years.
aren't like that anymore. I mean, and it's not that like it, you know, Apple obviously makes really high quality devices. Some other companies do too. It's not that they're not high quality, although, you know, something you carry around with you, inevitably you're going to drop it and chip it and crack it and scratch the paint, whatever. These things kind of happen, but yeah, it's the disposability factor. It's amazing, and it's not just that we're, you know, moving on to the next thing so quickly all the time, which we are. It's that it's always so expensive.
But, you want to
And
talk
it
about
amazes me that it's
conspiracies.
sustainable.
But I'll tell you, like, we like to talk about conspiracies every now and then off the air. But I mean, I think the biggest conspiracy is that we're being forced to upgrade these expensive products because before, like a TV that you bought had no software running it. It was just a tube, and you turn it
Yeah.
on and it worked. Now, you know, all these smart TVs come with
Yeah.
software involved, and they could kind of force us to upgrade by, you know, doing upgrades.
Well, obviously, no matter what the product is, the market, you know, there's always some plan where they want to get people to upgrade more quickly. It's better for them if you do that, and that's understandable. But it is interesting. I mean, you know, and you run into this thing. Apple just released their financial results. They sold a bajillion of everything. They're obviously doing fantastically well, and yet those results are somehow disappointing in some ways because, you know, Apple is Apple, and their products are very evolutionary now. You know, they have new versions of the MacBook Pro that look just like the last versions. They have new versions of the iPad, new versions of everything.
Yeah.
You know, not iPods, but iPhones look exactly like the old iPhones. You know, it's like we've reached a point where even the evolutionary stuff, same thing. Microsoft Surface devices, which are both improvements over last year models, look just like last year's
It
models.
looks
you know?
exactly, yeah.
They're not any cheaper. They're just as expensive, and people are spending those full prices over and over again every year on this stuff. And I feel a little weird because I'm part of it. You know, we write about technology, and I try to give good advice to people and all that kind of stuff. I have to buy stuff just to keep up on what's going on. But yeah, there's a certain kind of a treadmill aspect to it, which I'm not completely comfortable with. And I keep talking about how expensive this stuff up is, and I feel like I'm kind of shouting into the wind because people clearly have no problem at all spending
it.
another $500 to $900 every year in many cases, to buy another evolutionary version of the iPad that they already have.
I mean, listen, I don't need
or whatever the product is.
Is there that much of a tremendous difference between the iPad 2 and the iPad Air? I mean, are we talking?
Well, we'll see, right? You have an iPad 2. You'll
I have
be
an
able
iPad 2, yeah.
You should compare those.
So, I mean, obviously, I'm going to do that, but in hindsight, I mean, in the long run, I'm taking this device and I'm holding them next to each other. Yeah, it's going to be quicker, faster, prettier, better display, but for the amount of time that I'm using this, I mean, obviously
depending on what you're doing with it,
I'm
it may not matter.
I'll tell you, honestly, this is what I'm doing. I'm playing a stupid zombie game where I'm shooting zombies. I'll tell you the name of it. I don't even know the name. It's like Zombie Hunter.
Jeez.
Let's see. I play Terraria, and I play ZX3, where you shoot zombies.
Okay.
And then I go on Reddit. That's it.
Right.
That's all I use this thing for about an hour a night.
A lot of my regular tablet usage is reading of some kind, whether it's reading of web pages, reading of news stuff. If you use a Surface tablet, you have like a Bing News app you can use. Amazon Kindle app, different kinds of books and magazines and things in there. Comic books even, or graphic novels. And that's most of it. And I dabble in games occasionally because I do. It's funny because I like Xbox 360 games. I was a big PC gamer for many years. I don't spend a lot of games on the mobile stuff. A lot of time in games on mobile, personally. But you know how it is. You get a new device, you load it up with all this stuff, and the way that you ultimately use it may be kind of surprising. So Nexus 7, I did this. The iPhone 5 S, I did this. You load it up with games. And then you realize, well, I do anyway. I don't play any of these games. Like I don't personally.
I mean, I probably paid for a bunch of games on here that I've never even played. I downloaded and I started the game once and I was done. I mean, that was it. So it's interesting. But Rob Greenlee in our chat room says something interesting. He goes, hardware is getting boring to people. Software is actually solve problems.
Yeah.
So he's right. I mean, really, nobody's talking about specs.
That. Yeah.
Nobody's talking about specs. I mean, you're talking about, in the PC boom, everybody was talking about oh my God, it's a 200 MMX processor.
It depends on the product and the audience, right? You get in these debates online, Twitter, wherever, where someone will say something like, hey, you're going to get a new iPad or whatever. And it's like, yeah, I said, I will, to compare it. I mean, I think it's kind of a toss-up at this point. You'd be really well off if you got a Nexus 7, if you wanted to get a Kindle Fire HDX, iPad Mini. I think these things are all great. And then you'll get some guys, because he's like in this little partisan Apple world. He's like, oh, the A7 blows everything else up, out of the water. And it's like, how do you know that? What do you mean? Yeah. What are you talking about?
Well, I mean, I'll give you an example. We're talking about Haswell processors, right? I mean, you're excited about the Haswell stuff. I am too, and that's primarily the reason why I'm going to get a MacBook Pro. Yep. But what's the speed on that Haswell? I know there's an i5 and there's an i7, but I guarantee you most people don't know what speed that chip is clocked at. Is it 2.8? Is it a 3.2?
Which one? The one that's in a MacBook?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Exactly.
The one that's in a Surface Pro is 1.7 gigahertz.
But do people care?
It's actually pretty slow.
Yeah, but
from a clock speed perspective.
Yeah, I mean, but do people care about that?
They shouldn't.
I don't think they do.
The truth is they should. They really shouldn't.
I can't remember
we are
last
at this
time.
wonderful point in time where it doesn't matter anymore, for the most part.
I mean, and that's fascinating to me that people don't care, because it's totally changed. I mean, you went to a store and you bought, the first thing I remember finding out about a computer was the CPU speed.
Well, yeah, but that's sure.
I don't think people do that anymore. They just go in and they buy it. They buy whatever they see.
It's like buying a car. I don't think most normal people have questions around how fast does it go from 0 to 60. What's the top speed limit of this vehicle? It's like, does it ride comfortably? Is it reasonably quiet inside the cabin? What's the fuel economy like? I guess that's a figure we can measure. I think people care about stuff like that. I mean, the world moves on. I mean, we're kind of getting to that fuel economy stage with devices and PCs when you think about ARM platform and Windows RT, and battery life, which is sort of like fuel economy. I mean, these are the things people care about. The reason these new Surface devices are so much better than the old ones, in part, is because of battery life. Apple's devices all get killer battery life. That's a big thing. That's a big thing with these devices. They get great battery life, and that was always
And that's a
an
huge
issue.
selling point.
Yeah.
I mean, you could have the fastest, tablet on the market, but if you're getting 2 hours of battery life,
Oh yeah, and that was the
good
thing
is
I used to say, and vice versa. I mean, so where performance is usually not a problem, one of the areas where performance was a problem was with the first version of Surface RT, and I kept telling people, it doesn't matter if this thing gets 8 hours of battery life if you can't get anything done on it, and ditto for people that want to contort an iPad to have it be like a PC laptop where they're running productivity software and they get a keyboard and stuff. It's like you could do that, and it does get great battery life, but that productivity experience is just not, what you would expect or want from an actual PC laptop.
Yeah.
So there are trade-offs in both directions.
fascinating. I want to continue this discussion, of course, but we need to take a little break and talk about our sponsor, and that's, if I could get it, there we go. There we go. And it's Shutterstock. Shutterstock.com is a website with over 28 million high-quality stock photos, illustrations, vectors, and video clips. So if you are working on a creative project like a website, a portfolio, something for your job where you need to put together a demo, this is a site for you, and they have a great offer for you guys. 25% off a new account at Shutterstock.com when you use offer code WhatTheTech1013. That's WhatTheTech1013. I have a lot of friends that do websites. I have a lot of friends that have to create some sort of presentation for their job, and I've convinced them to go to Shutterstock. One of my closest friends, Josh Coleman, that does web design, uses Shutterstock all the time for stock photos for his website because they always have something to pick from. And if they don't, guess what? They're adding 20,000 images every single day. So go back, take a look, see what you got. The subscription, when you sign up, you can get up to 25 downloads per day with a standard subscription. Also, you could download any image in any size, and you only pay once. So if you need a 640 by 480 image and a 1400 by 1400 image, guess what? They have it, and it doesn't count twice. It only counts once. Really cool stuff. I really like the service. I use it. My wife has used it. We use it here at the GFQ Network. That's Shutterstock.com. Offer code WhatTheTech1013. And you get 25% off a new account. I want to thank Shutterstock for supporting What the Tech and, of course, supporting the GFQ Network. Paul, it is your birthday. A lot is going on. We're talking about things that you're getting. Does your wife have a difficult time buying you something? Like, would she go out and buy you a gadget?
No.
She doesn't even try.
I had this conversation with my wife years ago. I told her that there were two things she must never buy for me without, consulting with me first. One is a car. Not that my wife would go buy a car, but I mean, I'm like, don't ever she might hear me talking about cars and say, he really likes this, And
Paul, I bought you a 98 Mazda MPV.
Yeah. No. In other words,
Yeah.
I know, Paul, that you like classic Volkswagens.
Yeah.
So I went and bought you a 1972 Super Beetle because I knew you would. I would not be happy with that. The other one is gadgets. And she wouldn't. I mean, she's just, there's no way.
I have the same rule. Mine is like computer stuff, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it's shoes.
Shoes.
I like really gaudy, pointy Italian shoes. I want them to curl up in the front, like the Iron Sheik. Right.
Right.
So my wife doesn't buy me shoes. So that's one of the things. But, I mean, there's a lot happening. I wanted to ask you this question. People made a big fuss over the pre-order issue with this next iPad.
Yep.
And I was kind of surprised. I'm kind of surprised and I'm not surprised at the same time because there's no consistency with this company anymore. I don't think Apple's a consistent company when it comes to predicting how they're going to unveil something and when they're going to do it and what they're going to price it at. It's a total free-for-all now at this point because we were used to the Steve Jobs format of things.
Well, I mean, I think I know where you're going with this. One thing I would just remind everyone is when the first iPad was announced, they didn't ship it for months. In fact, it ended up shipping later than they wanted and not in quite the way they wanted. It took longer to roll it out. I don't remember the exact details. I think the white one, remember they're going to have a black and white the first year, but they didn't really. And they finally did it for iPad 2. I remember writing at the time that they really screwed it up by announcing it so early, but then not releasing it. I think they did it because they didn't want to get it into the FCC channels and then people would see what was happening.
That was the reason. You're right. Yeah.
And that they were going to screw up the process. That people would have buyer's remorse and realize they were spending $600 or $800, whatever it was, on something they didn't really need, and then 30 days in would be like, oh, I don't want this thing.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do this. Whereas, if you announce something and people get all excited and then they knee jerk buy it that first weekend, well, they're all set.
I do think that's a problem because I'm one of those people that buys these things based on reaction, right? I mean, now, like, I'm going to buy it, but I'm still contemplating. I'm like, you know what? Maybe I don't need to buy this thing right now. I should get the Nexus. I don't need to spend the money. I'm going to buy it because it's my job to review these things and have them, but I think they are missing something here because I know a lot of people that were interested in this device a week and a half ago or a week ago when they announced it, and now it's kind of settling down. They're like, well, I may get it for Christmas.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're missing anything with this.
I don't think it matters. I don't remember the exact quote, but Tim Cook said something like, we see this as an iPad Christmas or something like that. I think he's right. I think they're going to sell millions and millions of these things over the holiday quarter. So there are two things with the iPad that are kind of interesting this month. The first one is that iPad mini is not shipping at the same time. And the mini tablets are the really popular ones. And it's likely that version is going to outsell the iPad Air. So people may hold off for that, for that reason, right? Let's wait till the other one comes out, and then I can go to the store and I can compare them side by side, which I think is a very valuable thing to do. And then at that point, people may decide to go with the iPad mini because it's the same resolution, it's more portable, all that kind of stuff. That's pretty obvious. But the other one is that, the launch day sales or the launch month sales of the iPad Air don't matter at all. It's the quarter that matters. And they're going to sell millions of these things. So people like you who say, well, I could get it for Christmas. Yep. And a lot of people will do that. And there's no reason to rush out on day one because it's not like they're going to run out of them. They're going to make a lot of those things. I think the iPad mini might be more of a problem along those lines, right? Around them having enough of the screens and so forth. So I think I think they're going to be fine.
I don't know. I just think it loses something. The excitement of getting this thing instantly is a huge selling point. And I think that's something that Microsoft has missed, and I think Google has also missed with that, where you can't pre-order these things. Like the day that it's announced, like with the Surface, they announced the Surface, but how long did it take till you could actually order that thing? It took a while.
That was a huge mistake.
Yeah,
they announced it in June,
and they released it in October.
They started shipping, but only the RT version.
Yeah, they
didn't ship the Pro version until February. That is crazy.
Right? But Paul, I'm telling you, if that day they said, okay, you know what, we're going to open up pre-orders for this thing, it's coming out. They delayed it. Obviously, they didn't have to do it in June, but let's say they did it in September, and they said it's coming out in October. And we're doing pre-orders, I would have probably pre-ordered it right then because I got caught up in the announcement.
Sure.
It wasn't a great announcement, but I got caught up in it. I think that is something that nobody has done right except for Apple, really. Apple's really been successful with getting people to do that impulse buy instantly. And I think initially that was a huge selling point for them. Or maybe not. I don't know. I just think that they're dropping the ball with this. But regardless, you're right. They're going to be selling millions of these, so it doesn't matter.
I have to keep coming back to the same thing with Apple, too, is they don't have to play by the same rules. There's a built-in audience there. It helps, by the way, that the iPad is a great device. I mean, the iPhones that just came out, I think you can make this case that they're not really responding to real needs anymore. They still have this tiny screen. They're using last year's body. They're using cheaper parts in one device, but they're selling it for the same price. I mean, it's kind of a weird thing. Like the iPhone is weird, but the iPad, it's hard to look at that and think like, this is great. I mean, it's 1 pound. It's got the better form factor. It's super thin. To me, like if you want a full size tablet, that's amazing. I mean, a Surface 2 is a pound and a half. When you sort of say 1 pound versus a pound and a half, you think, well, those are very light devices. But the Surface 2 is half again as heavy as an iPad Air. So That's actually a significant difference. And it's the type of thing where you have to hold them in your hands to understand why that's true.
Paul, I got a question for you. And a viewer sent this in, and I was wondering, do you know if Apple has killed the non-Retina MacBook Pros?
They have kept the 13-inch version only.
Okay. So they have the 13, but not the 15.
Right.
Interesting.
Look at me knowing the details.
Yeah, I know.
Apple's product line.
But let's compare this to something like an HP, right?
Like, let's say I hate Apple so much. Look, see what I just did?
You know all about them.
I know exactly what's going on.
You know, you're like one of those guys. You know who you are? You're that guy that listens to Windows Weekly and says how much he hates Paul Thurrott, but he knows everything you're saying.
Sure.
I'm one of those guys, Paul. I'm that guy on Twitter.
I think you are that guy on Twitter.
When like a Samsung or an HP releases their latest version of their whatever Elite series, let's say, I've never seen a company release the new version and still have be like, oh, okay, you could either get the crappy screen or you could get a good screen. Like, that's never an option. They've really marketed this term Retina into something special. Just a high-res display.
I think Apple's weird. They're so weird. We can't. There's no logic to be had here. But I mean, they still sell an iPhone 4S which has the old style connector, not a Lightning connector. They still sell an iPad 2, 3 years old or whatever that is now, not a Lightning connector. Like it's so, and also not Retina. They're so bizarre. I don't. Why would you keep the one 13-inch MacBook Pro without a Retina display? Why just
kill it?
Go to Retina.
It's $100. $100. I don't think anybody's missing that $11.99 price point.
Eventually they'll switch over the MacBook Air to Retina. I'm shocked they haven't done that. Will they keep a non-Retina version of the Air in stock? Probably the 11-inch version to have some $9.99 device. Yeah, they probably will. Yeah. That's what they do.
I mean, at the end of the day, if you want an i7 in this thing, you're going to spend $1,600. I mean, okay. That's fine. I get it. I'm all right with that. It's another thing I got to spend money on. Great. Jeez. I hate this. I wish I just did construction for a living and I didn't know anything about the iPad or anything. One of my buddies, he does construction and he has a flip phone and he's happy as he could be. Just bought a new TV. He's so excited about 3D.
By the way, I don't want to embarrass a friend of mine per se, so I won't give his name, John. But recently, a friend of mine kind of casually mentioned on the side, we talk about digital music stuff all the time, and he's a big PC guy. He's not into technology, but he doesn't care about Apple stuff per se. Although he does use iTunes, I should say, actually. He said to me, just kind of as an aside, he goes, by the way, he goes, I recently got one of those old-fashioned kind of iPods, meaning like an iPod Classic, and I plugged it into my car, and he goes, I know you've been talking about this stuff for years, but he goes, yeah, I don't know why I didn't do this yet. This is great, having all my music in the car like this.
Yeah.
And I was like, John, what?
You could do this for like 15 years.
Well, yeah, what have you been doing? And he's like, oh, I just make CDs all the time. He makes CDs on his computer and he puts them in his car. And I'm like, hey, yeah. It's like, okay.
Let's talk about the Motorola plan to build a modular phone. I think this is a really cool idea. I think we spoke about this. There was another company called Phone Blocks that did this demo of this modular
thing.
Yeah, like it was big and bulky and it was modular and you could take off the cameras and pop in a new camera and it was all magnetic, so it fit in perfectly. And I thought it was cool. I don't see that becoming a mainstream thing. Obviously, I don't think people care for that. They buy their phone, they throw it away. But for people like yourself and me and the audience, this would be a cool thing. So Motorola has unveiled this Project Aura. It's an open source modular phone that you could pretty much, it's going to be Android based obviously, and you could pretty much change any unit, any modular piece to fit what you want. So if you want a faster phone, if you want a better display, if you want a better camera on there, you could do that. Who knows if this is something that's going to become a thing, but it is interesting. I thought it was pretty cool. Would you get something like this, Paul?
I need to know more about it, but my initial reaction upon hearing this is that literally, it was last night. I saw that commercial they have for the Moto X where they talk about all the ways you can configure it online.
And it fits perfectly with that. Yeah.
Yeah, and you could see this as kind of an extension of this plan. And the one thing I'll say, my wife actually brought up the Moto X phone one time. I think probably watching a Red Sox game. She saw the and her initial reaction was that this was silly and who would want to do this kind of thing. And I was like, hold on a second. I said, actually, this thing has not taken off in any meaningful way as far as I can tell. But I actually think that's a great idea. And that if you think back to what we were just saying about our crazy fixation on devices and all this kind of stuff, the ability to customize the device the way that you want it is really cool and a neat way to personalize something. Because, in the old days, we would personalize our computer by making a desktop wallpaper,
Sure.
Every device in my office is going off right now, by the way, because our podcast is starting in 15 minutes.
We're in the future.
I know. So, but here's the thing. If you've ever done something like customize, like you buy an iPod or some other device from Apple or someone else where they can etch your name on the back or whatever, you've just made it impossible to give that thing away, right? Like if you buy like a special red iPod Touch or something and you engrave, "Dear honey, happy Valentine's Day, I love you, love Julie" or something.
Yeah.
You've kind of ruined the aftermarket for that. And so the one thing I would say for the Moto X, the one issue with that is at least the color combinations and stuff. If you pick an attractive design, chances are pretty good that someone may want that.
Yeah, someone may want it. Yeah.
That's fine. But this thing that you're talking about, this new one, is even better along those lines because once you have this kind of componentized device, it doesn't matter what you get because anyone can change the pieces to make it into what they want.
But here's my issue with this. Let's say they release something like this, right? I'm sure that Motorola could do something pretty, and it's going to be probably a little bulky compared to everything that's all in one. But let's say they put something out, and I decide, I want to upgrade the camera. I want to put a better camera with a better lens in this thing. How much are they going to charge me for this modular piece they're going to make money from? $35? I mean,
yeah.
Actually, in reality, this is almost that freemium model that you see with apps now. Like the application is free, but you could use it for maybe like 3 or 4 levels. And after that, in order to continue, you kind of have to buy stuff like Candy Crush, for example.
Right.
These guys are not, they don't care about that it's free. They're making a killing off of all these people that are constantly upgrading and adding and, leveling up. It's almost that model, but for phones where they give the phone away for practically nothing and you just add the components.
Yeah.
I could buy 4 cameras, a macro lens. You could buy that. You could buy a different lens.
It's the possibility. You could change screen sizes, screen types, screen resolutions. There's all kinds of stuff. I think it's a good idea. I think it's going to take a little while to get there. But, if you think about the path that Android went down itself, I think we can expect a similar experience here. So we'll see. It will take a little while, but I think it's a great idea.
Tech Escape in our chat room says, "Good. I'm 15 minutes early for the regular show, but I'm 45 minutes late for the future."
Yep.
Oh man, I want to take a little break. I want to talk about a new sponsor to the show, actually, and I want to. This is their first time here, and that's if I can find it. There you go, GoDaddy. GoDaddy is the place to buy domain names, and they have a phenomenal deal for our audience for this month. I like to look at domain names as 21st century real estate, and I'll tell you why I call it that. And people think I'm crazy when I call it that. You always hear about people that buy domain names and they sold it. Oh my God, this guy bought the stupid domain name. He bought the honeysuckle.com and some candy company bought it for him for hundreds of thousands of dollars. I've always been one of those people that said this is the dumbest thing in the world. You buy the domain name that you need for your site. Don't buy because you're going to make money from it. My wife had a business. She still does, but she's not really continuing it. And it was an educational-based company. We sat on the domain for like a year. We didn't do anything. We got a call from GoDaddy because it was a GoDaddy domain, and some guy offered us $5,000 for the website right off the bat. It's like, absolutely, that'll pay the taxes and the corporate fees that I had to do to file this company. So, I mean, it's fascinating. That's why I like to call it as it's digital real estate. And they have a great offer. If you use offer code Queens199 when you're buying a .com domain name, the domain name is $1.99. $1.99 for a .com domain name when you use offer code Queens199. Also, we're going to have it in the show notes also. Really cool deal. I very inexpensive. Generally, people are spending $12, $14 for a domain name. You can get it for $1.99. What's better than that? I want to thank GoDaddy for supporting the show and supporting the network, and I want to welcome them to the show. I buy a lot of domain names. I'm one of these domain junkies that every time I come up with some crazy idea, I buy the domain name, and I sit on it, and I end up paying for it for years, and nobody ever wants it, except for that one domain name. It's fascinating. Paul, I want to go into the Nokia store because this is really good news for people. For Microsoft, for Nokia, for us, that people that love the Lumia line. Before I do, I want to just take a little, this isn't an ad or anything, but if you're buying stuff on Amazon, you could use our Amazon affiliate link. We have a little thing on the side. I was just reminded to tell you guys because I forgot to do it. Or you go to gfq.co/Amazon. A lot of you guys are buying stuff. I really appreciate it. It helps us do these upgrades and purchases for the show whenever we need to review something, whenever we have to upgrade something. We use our Amazon, the credits that we build with Amazon, and it doesn't cost as much. So I want to thank you guys that are doing that. Nokia Lumia sales hit record 8.8 million for the third quarter. That's a great sign.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you have to put everything in perspective, but year over year, it was a huge gain. I want to say off the top of my head, I think it was 2.9 million units the year before, although that, of course, happened in the quarter before Windows Phone 8 came out, and so maybe it was down, more than it would have been. But, quarter over quarter, which is not normally the way we'd measure such things, Nokia had previously with their record quarter, 7-point-something million.
7.4.
Yeah, so that they've gone up from that, and except for one rare glitch over the course of their Windows Phone time, Lumia sales have gone up every single quarter. So that's great.
I mean, they're up 200% from last year.
Yeah,
this time, same quarter. Which is phenomenal. Is it what's attributed to this? Is it the better marketing in the U.S. where they're kind of penetrating the market now, where people are recognizing the brand?
Well, the U.S. is one of those markets where they haven't done spectacularly well yet. Although that is one of the places where it was up 200%. Basically, I think it's kind of continued momentum of the platform, if you will, which is a terrible phrase, and I apologize for even saying it. But I think more specifically, it's this low-cost device they have, the Lumia 520, that we've talked about a lot. And this thing has been a global bestseller. Steve Ballmer referred to it as the best-selling Windows device on the planet. It is responsible for Windows Phone being the second most popular platform in many places in Europe now, also in Central America and South America. I don't know why I want to keep saying Asia there. So, you have this device that sells for $150 or $100, unsubsidized, no contract, and people are buying it. And so it's a completely different kind of success story than you might see with someone like Apple, where Apple is also selling far more devices, right? They sold, was it 30-something million? I don't know,
30-something million.
37 million, whatever it was. Some huge number. So they're selling a lot more iPhones. But they're also not selling any unsubsidized for the most part. I mean, obviously you can get them that way if you want, but not many people are going to spend $700-800, whatever it is, for an iPhone. And so they're hitting that part of the market that, kind of made the PC such a big success. I don't want to call them the cheapskates. I mean, the people who are not rich, which is, by the way, most of the planet. And so that's kind of nice. I mean, that's and kind of as it should be. So
do you think this is going to change something with the prepaid, the way that we look at contracts in this country with phones? Prepaid has always been, there's been this negative stigma with having a prepaid phone. A lot of people attribute it to something negative.
Prepaid phones used to be like burner phones, right?
Yeah.
They were like these cheap little flip phones.
But if you think about it, I mean, you're getting everything that you would normally get. I have no contract. I could use this phone as much as I want or as little as I want.
You know what this thing is? This is a gateway drug. So People who hear about this will say, well, I've always been a little curious about Windows Phone, or I haven't. It doesn't matter. It's $100, and so if it stinks and it's really slow and it's not what people say it is, then it doesn't matter. At least spend $100. And I didn't tie it to a 2-year contract, so there's no exposure, there's no risk.
You're not stuck with it. Yeah.
The other people though is then you get someone who says, well, I just dropped my iPhone on the floor and it broke, and to repair that thing is like buying a new one, and I can't afford to do that. But I can get this thing for $100 and I can last out my contract. And then I'll get a new phone when that's done.
Well, I mean, you just brought up a perfect example. This exact scenario happened to someone I know. The bar that Jess and I go to, the bartender has an iPhone 4S. She dropped it, broke the screen, and she has like another year on her contract.
Right.
I told her to go, and she has AT&T. I told her to go get this phone. She picked it up.
Yep.
It was $100.
So
she
here's what
didn't have to
happens.
spend
So a
money.
lot of these people, I don't know anyone who bought one of these who said, wow, this is a piece of shit. Like, this is really terrible. I really don't think that's going to be the reaction.
And I honestly thought that would be my reaction when I initially saw the price and I saw, you said, well, it's not the fastest.
You're like,
it's
well,
not
you're just saying it's good for the price.
Yeah.
You know?
No, it's phenomenal.
It's actually a really good phone. And I think that's going to turn a lot of minds around. So no matter how people get it, they buy a little thing as a media player, as a second device. They buy it for a child or for, some kind of a gift. They buy it for themselves to last out their contract because their real phone broke. These people are finally going to be exposed to something that the world has been preventing them from seeing until now, which is a Windows Phone. And they're going to be blown away by it, by and large. I think most people get this are like, wow, like this thing is actually, this is not just good with some caveats. This is a nice phone. And now when the contract comes back for renewal, or the next time it comes to buy the device for whatever reason it may be, now that's part of the decision-making process. Now they're thinking, well, maybe I'll look at a 1020 or whatever the new device is at the time. Because I had such a good experience with this, what if I could get a bigger version of this with an awesome camera, or whatever the criteria may be, a phablet version of this or whatever. So I think it's important for that reason. So people are looking at it and saying, they're selling these $99 phones. Who cares? I mean, they're not going to make any money on that. That's not the point. The point is to get people
to use it,
engaged in the platform, and now have it be one of the decision points. I think a lot of people walk into stores today and their mind is set. I want an Android phone. I want an iPhone. And I think what this will do is cause at least some of those people to say, what's going on with Windows Phone here? What do you have? And then they can make a more reasonable decision because now they've experienced it.
I am noticing more and more people in the streets with Windows phones.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm noticing because now I'm looking for it, because
like
now I have.
You
never saw it before. Now I see a Subaru. Every other car is a Subaru for whatever reason. But I do think people are realizing that there is another option. People used Android. I think for a lot of people, the smartphone entry was not the iPhone and it was Android. And they went and they got Android, and for whatever reason, they never went over to the iPhone. There's a lot of people out there that have this weird thing with Apple, and they don't want to go to Apple.
Those people would walk in and say, people buy an iPhone know what they want. They want the iPhone. Today it's 5S. That's the phone they want. People who buy Android phones typically, I bet, walk in and say, okay, 2 years is up, or 1 year, whatever their time.
What do you have
is.
on sale?
Or what's the best one? Whatever it is. However they make that decision. They're not looking for a particular device. They're looking for a particular kind of device, and they get whatever one it is, whatever their criteria may be, I just like that this changes the decision-making process because a lot of people are ignorant about Windows Phone because the people in the wireless carrier stores are not selling it, because the people who write for PC Mag and PC whatever are not pushing it because they're just catering to the masses that already have iPhones and Android phones, and they're trying to drive page views and stuff. And they're not really paying attention to like, hey, this thing is over here and it's actually really good.
Yeah.
So I think this is going to reset the discussion a little bit. I think, they're never going to,
they'll never be number two. I don't think they'll be number two, but I think it'll be a strong number three. And I think there's a place for that. They don't have to become the number one or number two smartphone. And well, you know what? Worldwide,
I disagree, Andrew. They do have to become.
I'm sorry,
but
I'm being a realist.
It doesn't matter. But
I mean, globally, they may actually. Globally, they may do really well if you add global, usage.
Sure,
they could really push. If this number one, number two thing really to me means nothing. It's how how many devices. Well, I guess it does. I mean, I'm trying to come up with a good way to make them look good without being number 1 or 2, Paul.
Well, okay. So, I mean, one of the ways is if the market was roughly split 3 ways between these platforms, being number 3 would be fine.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
The problem is number 1 is bigger than number 2 and 3 combined. So it's not like that, but you never know.
I'm excited for it. I'm going to pick up that 1320, right?
Mm-hmm. The low end one, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to pick one of those up also.
That one's interesting to me because it's everything that the 520 is and more, from a spec perspective. But it's got that bigger screen.
What, doesn't it have the 920 specs inside? Isn't it a 920?
I'd have to go look at it. It's better than a 520. I'm not sure if
I think it's a 920.
Okay, whatever. But knowing how good the 520 is, I think it's fair to say that the 1320 will be better from a kind of performance spec perspective. And it has that big screen, right? It's good. Guess what? Our podcast is starting right now.
Oh, okay.
So that is very interesting because it becomes like a video player. And Microsoft is bringing Xbox Video back to Windows Phone, I think for this very reason, because now they have phablets. And that means you'll be able to rent movies and buy, TV shows and do that kind of stuff and watch that content. Netflix is already on Windows Phone, but it makes so much more sense on a big screen device. And so where the current version is perfect for audio and for games a little bit, this one is better for games and much better for video. And I think it's a big deal. I think that's going to be another one. They're going to see great success.
What do you think we're going to see on Verizon?
There's something called a 929, which is a 5-inch. I don't remember if it's 1080p though. I think it might be 1080p coming. So sometime before the end of the year.
Okay. I want it. I want it all.
5-inch phone, yeah.
And I want it now.
Yes.
Did you see that Google story Wall Street Journal put out that they're getting ready to very, very soon to launch a Google Now centric smartwatch?
No, I did not see that.
I've been pretty critical of these stupid smartwatches. I may be one of these people. You know what? My goal in life is to be quoted like you were with the iPad with this thing. I think they're dumb. I think they're really stupid. I don't think we need it. Everybody's holding their phone anyway in the same hand as their watch. So what difference does it make? But apparently they want to get into it.
Well, I told you the big problem with the smartwatch stuff, right? I'm trying to log into this site so I can read this story. I did not invent this. Somebody told me this, and I apologize if they think I'm ripping this off. I can't remember who told me this, but we've reached the point now in corporate meetings in particular where glancing down at your phone screen, it has become somewhat socially acceptable. Because if you think about how a busy day works, even though they could be looking at Twitter or porn or whatever, they're probably looking at their schedule, and we're all busy. We get that. But, the one action that is never socially acceptable in meetings or elsewhere, whenever you're talking to somebody, is to do this kind of thing where you're like, what's...
Are we done here?
Looking at the time.
Yeah.
That's the universal gesture for I'm bored with what you're saying and I want to get out of here. And so I think this is going to be one of the many problems that these smartwatches face in the acceptance factor, but the social acceptance factor. I think we're still at the point where isn't it a little weird still? Like if you're walking down the streets in New York, someone walks by and they're not near anyone and they're just kind of talking to the air.
Well, a lot of things are weird. That's totally normal here in New York.
Okay, but you know what I'm saying, right? I mean, even that kind of thing is a little strange. I mean, we've all seen the videos and perhaps witnessed in real life the people who, slam into a pole or something because they're looking at their phone.
We're in this weird societal shift when it comes to a lot of things, communication, etiquette. When it comes to this stuff, you look at every family event that I'm having. Everybody's on their cell phone during the entire dinner. Everybody's just checking stuff. We also don't like each other. I mean, that may be a reason, but I think a lot of things are changing now where we're constantly connected.
Somebody cries at almost every one of my broader family events. I don't mean my own family here at home. I mean, like,
is that true? Because mine too.
It's just unbelievable.
We turned into a bunch of degenerates, like wrestling shirtless at Thanksgiving at one point.
No, you realize how messed up everyone in your family is when you finally get them all in like a restaurant or something, and you watch them interacting embarrassingly with a waitress, maybe, or you're just at some, your parents' home doing some birthday cake thing with these people you can barely tolerate, and they're all, issuing subtle digs at each other. And yeah, families are fantastic.
My
it really is kind of amazing.
Thanksgiving in my family always ends with me or one of the cousins from my wife's side drinking too much and challenging someone to a game of basketball, and we end up like playing a little too aggressive, and someone gets hit in the face with an elbow, and someone's bleeding, and then the girls start fighting. It's a mess.
Oh yeah, that's great.
I'm in a very functional family.
My wife starts drinking like an hour before any one of my family, because it's the only way you can get through it. I don't know how she puts up with my family.
Amazing. Well, Paul, time to wrap it up. We started the show an hour early. I apologize. That's my fault. I have to do an appearance on another person's show, which I had promised, and I totally forgot that we do a show at the same time.
And so, if you're just joining us now, I hope you enjoyed the 5-minute episode,
which we'll have it up on podcast within probably within an hour or two. I mean, we're quick with this stuff, so we're gonna get this up on the RSS, so you could go and download it. It'll be on Win Superside probably tomorrow. Paul, are you coming to New York anytime soon?
Not that I know of. Okay. I guess anything's possible.
Because your wife has to come this time, and we could all go out to dinner.
Yeah. That will happen.
Rather than it being, a 25-minute. Well, we hang out for a couple hours and we get drunk, so that's right. We do hang out, I guess.
We are good at that.
We are very good at that. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to rebroadcast this live because I have to go on the show immediately, and my feed doesn't turn off. So you can watch me talk to people about broadcasting. I think that's what we're talking about. WinSuperside.com, all things Paul Thurrott, and everything he's covering. A lot. I'm sure you're busy the next couple of weeks. A lot of stuff happening. A lot of reviews to do. A lot of write-ups to do. So WinSuperside.com. Also, Windows Weekly every Thursday. Paul Thurrott, Mary Jo Foley, and of course, Leo Laporte do the show. You could follow me on Twitter at Andrew Zarin. You can follow Paul at Thurrott. Also, guys, you could use our Amazon affiliate link if you want to help us out. You want to support the show. You could go to gfq.co/Amazon and use our Amazon affiliate link. Also, subscribe to us. Subscribe to the show on every podcast platform available. We'll see you all next week, guys. Take care.